Okay, Rachel and I are kind of DIYing, so I hope you can hear me. We didn't discuss who would go first or second, so this is going to be fun for everyone. Rachel, do you want to go? Do you want me to go?
It doesn't matter to me. So, I mean, I have a slide deck up already.
Same.
So, yeah.
You can
So,
take it away, girl. I'm gonna let you go.
sure. Yeah. Awesome. I have guest host privileges to
Yes, you should just be able to
share.
share.
Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. So, there we go. Yeah.
You
So
can
I'm
see it.
gonna, can we see my screen? Is
Yes.
the most
Looks
important. Awesome
beautiful.
sauce. Oh, thank you so much. I love it. That is my favorite type of stuff. Here we go. Um, Great. So managing vendor success, tips for vendor success during the farmers market season. I kind of meshed together two different presentations to do this, and Hannah and I have been to, we've known each other for a while, and we've done a lot of things together, talking about our own farmers markets. So yeah, again, we're just gonna go through this, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But first off, I'm Rachel Bowen, pronouns are she, her. I manage the Glenwood Sunday Market. A little bit about me. That is my child. It is a brachiosaur at the Field Museum. I was a volunteer at my farmers market starting in 2015. I joined the Rogers Park Business Alliance in 2016. I then took on the role as manager in 2019. I became also a ILFMA board member. ILFMA member in 2019. Then I became a board member of ILFMA in 2025. So you never know what will happen if you start volunteering at a random farmers market that you happen to find in your neighborhood. You may actually end up running it. So, things that I like to talk about with running a farmer's market. And the first thing I like to talk about is rules. I'm a big rule follower. I'm the type of person who I wouldn't even go to the lake and disrespect lifeguards. That's like how big I am with rule following. So the first thing I always say as a market manager, if you have vendors, make sure you have clear rules and regulations. That's the first thing I say with vendor success is having rules implemented first before you do anything. Establish them before you even think about having a farmer's market. Because again, that is going to be the impact of your season. That's going to have your expectations. That's going to have your compliance standards. And also make sure that your vendors know and sign it before that season starts. They acknowledge what is in your rules and regulations before a season starts. Because when they go into that season, they know what to expect. You know what to expect. You know what to expect of them. And everyone is copacetic. Everyone is on the same page. And you know what you can go back to in case things aren't copacetic as you go into that. And you know what to abide by. So as you can see, I do have a screenshot of what I currently use. I have my policies and guidelines, my operations manual. I send that to all of my vendors with their invoice every single year. And then I send them two options. I send them a Google form that they have to fill out. It goes by click yes of every single area of the rules and regulations. And then if they don't want to do the Google form, then they get a page on a PDF that they print out and give to me the first day of the farmers market, signed that they completed it to me. And if I don't have both of those by the first day of the farmers market, then I do not allow them to come to the farmers market. So I like to make sure that all of my vendors know that they have to read all our policies and operations or our rules and guidelines. So it's one of those things that to make sure that everyone is aware, everyone knows how to be safe. Because again, there's so many things that you want to make sure that you have in place. Because the farmers market is an ecosystem. You want to make sure that, again, your vendors are feeling heard, but also you want to make sure that it's not just that. You have customers that are going to be there. You have staff that are going to be there. You have volunteers. So everything happens in one place for however many weeks a year, however many months a year. Because when vendors are also feeling heard, they're more patient. When customers are feeling welcome, they extend that grace back to you. But again, this is a huge ecosystem. And it all starts with you guys. You're the managers. Managers, staff, and volunteers, we all set the tone. Your customers and your vendors, they are going to be your partners. And again, you're building a trust at this farmers market. And that is going to be growing through consistency, and that's going to be growing through positive interaction because you are building a small little community within your farmers markets. Creating a welcoming, hold on, my market, yes, my market environment. Yes. Again, having clear signage as well, not just for vendors, but for everybody. I like to throw this in here, because sometimes your vendors may not know where things are as well as your customers and even your staff. So clear signage about your rules or your program, it prevents frustration at your farmers market, and also your vendors having clear signage. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And even just like friendly greetings at the information booth to it changes the entire tones about visits. And having the inclusive language and inclusive signage that's visible. You are the information point as a manager. Your information booth is probably one of the first stepstones, the first touch points for a lot of people at your farmers markets. And also having clear expectations and flexibility is a huge point about running a farmer's market, especially with your vendors, because you may not have the same reps every single week. So just because you told so and so last week what your token system is, what your link system is, doesn't mean the next person who comes this week is going to know the same system. So make sure that you have the same language written down somewhere every single week. You need to make sure everything is the same, everything is consistent, and always being, friendly, always being clear about things. You want to stop that frustration before it starts. You want to make sure that you're always being the pinpoint for that because you don't want things to be escalating. You want to make sure that you stop things because again, you have a whole day ahead of you. You have a whole wave of people about to come in. So make sure that just everything is consistent, everything is set up, everything is ready to go for both you, your vendors, your customers. It's just a good way to start things off fresh, especially at your information booth. Ah, and now let's get into some vendor advice. I have a whole thing about vendors and I put a lot of that in here. Because your vendors are your touch point of the farmer's market. And your vendors should know that they are the touch point of the farmer's market. Friendly and professional customer service, approachable attitudes, smiling, greeting customers, engaging in friendly conversations. Your customers should be your vendors should be talking to their customers. I've had so many times where I've seen some vendor reps who are not my regulars who have been filling in that just sit in chairs, don't even make eye contact. And then I'm the one who gets a phone call from the owner like, hey, how come my sales were like this? And I'm like, you should talk to your rep about who was sitting there reading a book for the entire market. Again, there are reasons why people approach your booth. Patience. There are customers that are a different level of interest. There are some customers who are ready to just go, get that cheese, get that bread, get that pepper. They know exactly what they want, limited access to conversation. But there are some that really want to know, hey, I really want to know like what is in this? What is made out of this? There are so many different levels of what type of customers coming to that booth. And then problem solving, the complaints, the professionalism. You are the manager at the end of the day. And I like to tell my vendors, don't be starting fights. You stop the conversation and you come get me. But however, you need to be the one to stop that person and say, this conversation is done. I will go get our manager to finish and you can discuss it with them. So, I like to say that we are a big family at my farmers market and most of my vendors know how to handle most problem solving skills, but then at the end of the day, I'm still the manager. I'm still the one handling the 2,500 people that come through. And if there is a huge problem, I'm the one who's supposed to be grabbing the, um, let's just say emotional individuals to go to my vendors. And then reliability and commitment, consistency, showing up on time because customers value dependability. Because guess what? I tell this to everyone when I'm in my in-person webinar, in my in-person um, presentations. Who are the people that get in trouble at farmers markets when your vendors are not there? It's not the vendors. It's you guys. It's the managers. You're the one that the people will come up to immediately and start harping on because the vendor is not there that day. I had a 7-year-old girl just yell at me hardcore because her mother, God forbid, could not get her truffles this week at the farmer's market because one of our vendors was not there that week. So, again, there are definitely scenarios where vendors do not come to the market. One of the things I do love about our CRM system is that my vendors get to put in what days they will not be there, and we do post about that if I know in advance. And then if there's emergencies, I do have emergency lines, so I do ask my vendors to let me know. But the no call, no shows, I'm very much against no call, no shows. And that's why in my rules and regulations, three and done. First one's a warning, second one's a fine, three, you're out. Again, putting rules and regs in place. The vendors know about this. And then preparedness, bringing enough stock, having change, bags, other essentials, being ready for the day. I had a farm once whose truck broke down on the way to our farm. They called me. I'm not going to make it. I immediately let all of my other vendors know. They at least let me know hours in advance. So my other farms knew, hey, they need to bring at least double the stock for this week because one of our major farms wasn't going to be there. So sometimes you got to be prepared for big things or just know you're going to have 3,000 people walking through. I can't have you sitting down for 2 hours because you ran out of food by 12 o'clock because I don't let my vendors leave early. I'm not going to have an empty booth sitting there. But it doesn't look good if you've sold out by 12 o'clock every single week when we're a 9 to 2 market. Knowing how much you need to bring is a huge thing as well for vendors. And then cleanliness, keeping your area tidy, and health and safety standards. I'm a city of Chicago market, so we do have to be cleared by streets and sanitation. We have to make sure we have by our guidelines. So our vendors got to take their trash out, and our vendors also, if they sell to people and they have trash, they need to be able to take trash back from people if they sell it to them and take it with them to go. And they don't use city bins, they don't use bins of our business owners. Whatever trash they have, they take with them. And then knowledge of product. Like I mentioned earlier, be ready to answer questions. It's your product. People want to know where it's grown, what it's sourced, what it's made out of, and the storytelling. In front of you is Rebecca's Confections. She is one of our vendors who loves to talk about how she locally sources. And when I say local, I mean 200 miles. Most of her stuff is, I mean, she uses Janie Mill for all of her flowers. That's it. Janie Mill's flour is the only thing she uses in all of her stuff. She gets her honey from a vendor that is 40 miles away. I drove with her to Gurney to this random industrial chocolate shop that she didn't want to pay $50 to get delivered. And we drove there to find this random, like literally, it's these personal touches that people do want to know about. Have these vendors know their story, know how to tell it. People want to know what they're buying from. That's why they come to the farmers market. It's an experience. People want to know why they're spending their money, why they're spending $7 on the pastry, why they're coming away with these things. It's a personal touch now. So make sure your vendors know what to do and how to answer it. It's not, we cater to the fact that our market is a grocery store market. Every single vendor except our flowers are food based. And our vendors love to talk about how this has happened or how, They got up at 4 o'clock the other day. They handpicked this. They found this animal when they were doing it. They love to tell these stories. So I want to make sure that, when you're talking to your vendors, they're not just sitting there and they're not just, be engaging because it makes the customer come back. And branding, it's one of the hardest things to do at a farmer's market is branding. And even as a farmer's market manager, branding is one of the hardest things to get across because so many of your vendors, I get it, like time is hard, time is just, but signage, always have signage at your market for your vendors at their market and who they are, what their business identity, and least names and prices. And if they have gone through the correct um, process, sampling, yes, samples will attract buyers. And if they have social media, promoting on social media, tagging, that's what I ask my vendors to at least do is tag us or now even collaborate with us. It's the easiest thing to do. We do featured vendors every single week and I tag them. And it's maybe 1 in 5 sometimes will repost us. Sometimes some people don't even see it, or they'll be like, "Oh my God, that was so nice of you to do that this week." And I'm like, "Great." No one gets the emails, no one sees it. It's one of the hardest things to do. And I, if anyone else knows how to find the way to fix this, but again, branding is definitely a way to get their names out there, have it work out. But uh, we're still working on this, but again, have a social media presence, encourage it, tag them, keep doing it. But it's something we do here at Glenwood Sunday Market. But what's the why? Why do we do this? Because we're strengthening at the end of the day the local food system. Because when your vendors are there doing this positive interaction, your customers feel respected, they stay longer, they buy more, they come back, and that directly supports them. It keeps your market healthy, and that creates this connection, and it sustains your market long term at the end of the day. So yeah, that's me. That's from our fundraiser that we just had on Sunday for the farmers market. And here's my information, and I'll send the slides to Janie. So yeah, I will stop sharing my screen, and if anyone has any questions, so yeah.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Is anybody, oh, I think I missed one.
Oh, I see one. Pet policy. Oh, yeah, we are a very pet friendly market because this is Rogers Park. I would never fight the dogs of Rogers Park. Yeah, I literally have pet bandanas that we sell yeah, that would be one war I will never get into. However, there are rules, like they must be leashed. And if there are pets that obviously are aggressive, we do have conversations with owners and they can't be escorted out of the farmer's market and they're not allowed near food. And if we see that, they also will be escorted out. But yeah, I will not fight the dog owners or the pet or the bird. We've had birds. We've also had cats and backpacks. But we do not allow vendors to bring live animals. We do not allow live animals to be with them. But yeah, pets leashed are allowed at our farmers markets. Yeah, as long as they're leashed and contained, yes, they are allowed. We have signage on our website in our FAQ and then those on other. So, and leashed only, yes.
Okay. Thank you for your questions. It's great.
Rachel, can I ask a question outside of the group? When you took over Glenwood Sunday Market, did you have any like issues with existing vendors who weren't getting on board with like creating the ecosystem or who maybe aren't as tech savvy, have different backgrounds and the promos?
When I took over, it was it was easier since I was a volunteer for 5 years. and they knew me. So that was a little bit easier. And then I just didn't give them like, I just did it. Like, I didn't give them an opportunity to say no. That's kind of like how we were when we raised prices. Like, it was like my way or the highway. It was kind of one of those things. Like, same when COVID happened, I was like, cool, we're doing this thing called a WhatsApp. You're either going to be at the farmer's market with us doing this app, or you're not going to do a farmer's market with us this year. It was one of those, you got to adapt or you can't do it. They all went to a payment system. My cash only vendor had to do a payment system now, and now he has a payment system. He's not cash only anymore. So they everyone had to either adapt or not be in the market. So I didn't give anyone really a choice. I don't really regret it too much. So because at the end of the day, it's kind of, where we're operating at. And since because COVID then and anyways, COVID then ended up happening and we all went to electronic anyways. So now everyone is mostly tech savvy. But it's just the social media that's really harder. Like not everyone has a social media, but then now I'm encouraging people to, a lot of them have younger interns or younger people working for them. So I'm encouraging them to use them for social media now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So Hannah, we'll just turn it over to you.
I'm hoping you can see my screen. Yes?
Yes.
All right, bet. All right. I'm really glad that Rachel and I did not prep because we're talking about totally different things and I kind of love it. All right. So Rachel very much is like, let's create the environment, let's create the ecosystem. And I love that. I view farmers markets as a team sport. So maybe that's my background of being a little competitive because I think you do. You have competition throughout the farmers market from vendor to vendor. You're going to have some overlap no matter what, depending on how many vendors you're taking. But you still really want it to be a really friendly environment, right? We may not agree all the time. We have different strengths. We're coming from different places. But we just want to try and make it as friendly as possible to all the vendors. So I don't do an about me. Rachel's cooler than me. Love the dino pick, but you can learn a little bit about my market. So we're a year-round market. We do indoor November through April once a month, and then outdoor we do May through October, every week from 7:30 to noon, rain or shine. We are a producer-only market. Now everyone has their own little definition of what a producer-only market is. How I define it is everyone must make, raise, or grow exactly what they sell. So produce, meat, eggs, cheeses, honey, artisan products, breads, pottery, and more. So we are not a grocery store, unlike Rachel, even though there's room for everyone at the farmers market realm. But that's just how we view it. We want you to be able to grab stuff from artists, right? Because we're a smaller community, so maybe we don't have as many shopping options as you would like in the city or in the suburbs. So we try to cater towards a little bit of that. We do have live music every Saturday. We are a pet-friendly market as well. Weekly children's activities for the most part. We do also house nonprofit booths at the market. So we offer a bake sale booth, which is a fundraising opportunity, and then we offer a community information booth, and then we have Master Gardeners in twice a month now, Ecology Action Center in once, and then a bunch of other people who are in the schedule. If you're wildly curious of who we're working with to copy inside of your own community, shoot me an email. All right. Themed markets we also do. Dog Day, Opening Day, Howl at the Market, which is our last one, right around Halloween. And then National Farmers Market Week, we close down an additional street, which the fire department hates, but they get over. And so we do an expanded layout for that. On average, we see about 2,500 average weekly visitors. This past year, we had 91 vendors capped, and then we had 73 community groups who we ended up working with. Honestly, I fear that number's a little low, but that's what you're getting today. All right, friends. So starting at the beginning, similar to Rachel, setting expectations on applications is big. So this is my cutie little website that you can see there. It's just a screen grab. But I basically shove everything on one web page and I say, hey, if I'm missing something, you please let me know because I would love to house another link. So very, very clear rules and regulations. I'm also going to give props to Rachel. I updated my absence policy after speaking to her, and I was like, hey, I definitely need to change my ways. I'm still being too nice, Rachel, update for you. I'm letting them have 3 free passes before charging them, and then at 6, they have to have a conversation with me. It's fine. But as long as you have clear expectations going in from the get-go, I feel like you cut down on a ton of the questions that you're going to end up getting. You cut down on the confusion from vendors. I also say that, like, you don't have to read everything. You sign that you read everything, but you don't have to read everything because chances are I'm going to harass you and remind you about 12 more times throughout the season of what I need you to know. We do a pre-application annual market meeting. This is live and in person. During COVID, we did it virtually, but live and in person. That way vendors can ask questions. I'm also a city housed market, so I'm a city employee. So people can call me pretty much whenever to get answers to any of the farmers market related stuff. And then bridging and advocating for vendors. The health department sometimes is a little bit of a slippery slope. They can be your best friends or they can be, your little frenemy. It's great. Right now, we're besties mostly, but trying to make sure that you're advocating for your vendors at every step within the process, whether that means that maybe a potential vendor has a language barrier, right? We've dealt with that a couple of times. So using like translation services to advocate for that vendor with the health department process. And then just trying to cut down on as much confusion as possible. Advertising what you need at your market. So this is Market Maker does a great job. If you're not a market maker, please get on Market Maker. But this is great at advertising what you need. So I think this was 2 years ago, I asked for mushroom vendors, right? Because my guy was flaking. So I was like, hey, I could use some sweet humans who want to sell some fungi at the market. And I ended up getting 3 applications, right? So I was able to backfill that spot of a vendor that I actually do need. We are a pretty competitive market. And so in the application process, as soon as they apply, they get an automated response that's like, hey, this is our review timeline, so that they have a specific expectation going in. This past year, what we started doing is if they don't meet our criteria, we may not do an inspection with them anymore, which kind of looks like a 30-minute interview for us. It also means going on site the majority of the time. We have done it over Zoom using video to inspect where they're kind of growing things or what standards their animals are being kept in on the property. And then also, I usually, if I'm not going to do an in-person inspection, I will ask for 3 professional references of people that they currently work with. So that's just a little bit of how I do that in the back end, but trying to make it friendly. The inspection/interview process is very chill for our vendors. I just always pose it as like, hey, this is just going to be you showing off exactly what you're doing, and then we're just going to chit chat. It's not really intense. I don't want it to be stressful. And then we utilize a market management software. This can make it a really unified process for all of your vendors. It'll cut down on your time inside of the back end. So this is where I say markets are a team sport. Your coach needs good tools to be able to execute what you want to execute. With that said, that's not always where we're meeting people at, right? So we do provide a guide with visuals and screenshots to cut down on confusion and alerts. We also have scheduled meetings sometimes with applicants who are a little less tech savvy. So they come to the office and then we fill out their application together. But I basically say, like, we're going to meet you where you're at. So if it's a language barrier, like, we're going to work with you. If you don't have tech on the farm, right, come on down. We'll schedule something to make it work. We also only ask for what we need, right? So until a vendor is approved, I'm not asking you for your certificate of insurance, right? From the get-go, I don't expect you to pay for that prior to being in at the market, because on average, we take about 120 to 130 applications if we're only accepting 91. I don't want you to pay for a bunch of stuff that you're not going to need because we may not take you. And then we also separated out community organizations to help cut down on some of the chaos inside of Manage My Market. This also helps feature with some of the integrations through Manage My Market our vendors a little bit better. So they can do a product search, they can see our vendor directory online. All of that is located on our website. So we try to advertise them as best as we can. All right. they're accepted. Now what? So communications and resources are a big thing. Everyone gets a very, very annoying giant email of everything they need to know pre-market season and all the resources. This includes my emergency action plan, parking locations in several different formats, because there was one year I just sent two, and then they were like, well, what if I want it for social media and I'm going to print it out for my staff workers? And could you make it a different size? And I was like, okay, fine. Um, Bathrooms, electricity, if applicable, right? So some of our vendors do have electricity. So on a one-on-one basis, they get an email from me that says, hey, your electricity is located to the back left light pole. We will open it for you at the start of the market. So just making sure that your expectation setting of like everything they could possibly like ask you, it'll cut down on your emails too. They will feel better because then they feel heard, their needs are being addressed. You're still going to end up with questions no matter what, for sure. But just be patient, be kind, and it'll be all right. And then past my giant email, then comes the fun part. I'm going to skip my next bullet, but checklists and check-ins. So because I'm city embedded, they do have to also enroll in our vendor self-service system. So fun to get reimbursed for SNAP link. And then we have a currency, market-wide currency too, that's used like cash at the market, because some of our vendors are still cash only. Rachel's cooler than me. Schedule for the payments too are also included, so they can expect when to get that check cut and sent back for them for any of the currencies that they took during market days. Currency guides with visual aids. I cannot stress this enough. Make sure there are visual aids. The old one, pre-me, had no visual aids. People were very confused. I was really over it. And absence policies, new and improved this year. With social media, to touch back, social media check-ins with interns. So when I'm doing like an inspection or interview process, I always ask them like, hey, what kind of social media do you have? Also, annually, I have my intern go ahead and creep on all the social media for some of our vendors who are maybe in flux. So they were working on their social media last year, or all of our new ones. And then she scores them. And so what we do past that is we do touch points of like, hey, we noticed that maybe your social media could use a little bump up. What we do is we offer a social media getting started guide for some of our friends who have no social, and then they'll do one-on-one check-ins too sometimes when we have the time to do like consultations on a vendor's social media. This is a great use of a college intern, okay? And I don't know why, but we always get girls. It is what it is. And then asking for comfort levels. This is something that we always want to make sure that we're checking in with vendors during the market season. But if you can ask during the preseason, this will cut down on maybe a little uncomfortable conversation. So I always ask, hey, are you comfortable with photos? Are you comfortable with interviews, etc.? Right? Because I want to make sure that I'm respecting their best wishes. We do have a family for religious reasons that does not want any photos taken of them. And we just make sure to highlight their products instead. So just depends. And then weekly emails. So every week they're in at the market, they get an email from me. This includes weather, construction, and any other updates. We do host a lot of special events inside of our downtown area. So those are always included, as well as which way to exit the market, because if there's a load in happening like 20 minutes after the loadout occurs for the market, I just wanted to be aware. And then my big thing is repetition. It's okay to be a little or a lot annoying. It's probably going to be fine. I will say too, on the photo and the interview thing, when I send my big email, I put in there, I'm going to ask you a question somewhere in this email so that I know you read it. Answer that question as a response. Ta-da! And then I can go back and say, hey, so I noticed, did you just not receive it? Do I need to touch base? Do you want to chat? So yeah. Next one is using the tools you have. So tracking incentives. I'm a big stats guy. If you've seen me at everything local every year, I love a good statistic. So tracking you experience peaks and dips. This is for us. This is our little place area I pull from last year. So being transparent when attendance is lower with your vendors, increased vendor social media may be needed, right? Because you're trying to grow that organic reach. So when you're having an off season, maybe encourage your vendors, hey, this would be the best time for you to get real good at social. Maybe you want to go live at the market. I don't know. Could be fun. So trying to increase vendor and customer attendance during season drop-offs. This also looks like outreach for us, right? It's a team sport. So if I'm going to ask a vendor to do it, I will be already doing it for the most part. And then working with your community and tracking, try to figure out who's missing and then work with vendors, your board. I know a lot of farmers markets do have a board or volunteers to help you brainstorm. Again, it's a team sport. You want everyone involved. This is not just your vendors, but this is the people who will benefit the most. Your vendors will benefit the most if you figure out who are currently missing and who we can take to the market. And then offering incentives. So if you can sponsor 1 week during maybe not a peak season, so like a fifth weekend of the month, for link customers, if you can do a match there, an additional match on top of link match, and then asking vendors for incentives. If you're like, hey, we notice that every year the 4th of July happens to not be a great weekend. By the way, our market will fall on the 4th of July this year. I'm really nervy. But you could be like, you know what might be great? If everyone just got together and did grilling sales, that could be really fun for everyone, don't you think? And then we'll also ask them and promote them too. So it's a team sport. If I'm going to ask you to do it, I'm going to make sure that we're trying to work with you to the best of our ability to highlight that. All right. Curating a market where vendors can flourish, taking out the guesswork. So when I inherited the market, there are a lot of baked goods. I said, probably not. So we took out some of those sweet friends and found better avenues for them to maybe explore their creative passions. Uh, Also communicating what you need from existing vendors. Big thing. So when I say going to a market maker and advertising on there for like fungi, right? Blueberries are always my other big thing. We are an Illinois state only market, so all of our vendors will come from the state of Illinois. That is kind of our geographic parameters that we're working with. So I can't always get exactly what I want, but communicating what you need from existing vendors first is a great place to start. So if I can say every year to all of my produce farmers, hi friends, I need someone to grow asparagus. We have asparagus, but say I don't, right? Having them understand what I need from the get-go is going to benefit them because they're going to fill a niche that I don't currently have at the market. So they're going to be more successful. And then I'm going to be able to say, hey, now I have this product. And then we do fully tracking sales. We ask for like percentage change more frequently. I get kind of odd looks when I ask for full sales reports. I don't know what it is. Even though they're anonymous, right? So I ask for percentage change year over year, and then I do track sellouts. So if somebody sells out by the middle of the day, similar to Rachel, they have to stay at the market. I don't really care what your plans were. You're here. I'm not dealing with an empty spot. And then check-ins with vendors during the season. So this is a great time since we're a 7:30 a.m. market. All of our vendors are pretty much in by 7 a.m. And so we'll go and chit chat earlier morning when it's a little bit quieter with some vendors to see how things are going, to see if there's anything we need to change or know about. So, but those in-person conversations can really help the one-on-one interaction and also develop your relationship with your vendors. Next one is using your social and political capital for good. This can be for grants, endorsements, etc. So for me, that kind of looks like I've done quite a few letters of support for expanding a business, dealing with some of the grants from the state. We've had a couple of people who have gotten those grants. So just making sure that like you as a market manager are pushing for your vendors to succeed. And that leads into my next point is knowing what their plan is to grow, right? If this is their final destination, right? That's great. I'm cool with that. But if they want to go wholesale, if they want to go to a food truck, they want to do brick and mortar, understanding what their end goals kind of look like can really expectation set for everyone involved. And then also I can connect them. So maybe I know someone who's like moving out of a brick and mortar that has exactly what they need. I'm going to try to move them in. All right, putting the me and team. It was going to be super cheesy no matter what. Create a community. Carefully crafting your map to have complementary and non-competitive vendors next to each other is massive for me. I stress over the map every single year, and the reason I do is because it can make or break your market, right? So if you can put points to draw into less traffic areas of your market map, you want to make sure that this works with everyone inside of the area. So what I have is I have a list of about 15 vendors that I call my works with everyone list. So this could be drop-ins, this could be full season vendors, but they fit a specific niche and they're not going to compete with anyone else. And they have a good attitude and they don't have the same spot that they've had for 25 years. And then they try to lecture me that they've been at the market longer than I've been alive. Anyway, it's fine. But I do have my little list of my 15 great humans who are happy to work with whoever and go wherever I really need them. So just making sure that you understand who's that person who's going to just step up to the plate and really just be a team player at your market. Programming successfully to engage customers with different vendors. So we do some kids activities at our market, including Find the Rainbow. But we want to make sure scavenger hunts too. One year we did too many tomatoes, which I want to do again this year, which was like, we had the kids go around and we're like, could you find all the tomato vendors at the market? But trying to mix in like different products throughout the year so that they're having to go like with their parents to see different vendors. So they're gaining that exposure from different areas of the market is one of our big goals. And then event days, sometimes you got to coach up your team, right? You got to coach up your vendors and say like, hey, I know you grow produce, but you could do something for dog day. Hear me out. This is a path we could go down. So we've done carrot taste test, right? So somebody had colored carrots and purple, the whiter variety, and then the orange carrots. And so we did little slices for the doggos. They've done pub cups, they've done water, even just hosting something as simple as a treat, just to work with in the event. So we just want to make sure that like when I tell them our event schedule for the year and two, I also always preface, if you don't know how to interact with something, please just like set up a 30-minute call with me. We can chit chat about it. We'll figure out how to make it work for you. Because I just want everyone to be successful. And then celebrating milestones, whether that's personal or business, you will know your vendor's vibe, right? So we had somebody who had twins last year. We celebrated that, but she was fine to do that. She's on social. She promoted the fact that they had 2 new farm workers to help them out. So just work with what you've got. But business celebrations for sure can go a long way to helping also build something like creating mentorship and referral opportunities. So whether that's a new farmer who's just getting started, whether you have an aging farmer who is wanting to retire or aging vendor who's wanting to retire and wanting people to take over the business, we really try to make it a team sport. So the guy that you see here has helped 3 other younger farmers get started. His name is Drake. He is great. And he has really, really helped encourage like, hey, we're all going to sell produce at this market, but we can all sell different varietals, and we can also talk about like what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and how to make it work as a collective, right? Because there's more power the more people you have working together. And then utilizing your community. So speaker opportunities. We've plugged in some of our vendors to go speak at a small business development center. We've also had them speak at a Hispanic session for cottage food makers, traditional media. So we work with Pantograph Media down here to do a, what is it? Farm to Fork series that we have going on with one of the reporters over there, where he tests out a new product from the market every single week, right? And how he can interact with it. And there have been some wins, but he's also failed a few times. So we just want to celebrate that, like, sometimes it's not always going to be easy, but like if you're shopping local and you're working with these vendors, they will work with you. And then connections to the restaurant and more. And the big thing is, and I'm going to go super fast because we're almost out of time, staying curious is what I would always recommend. Take your ego out of the equation and listen to what your vendors are saying. Even when they're being jerks, it's okay. Like sometimes they're just having an off day and chances are they have a good reason for what they're saying. So just take your ego out, listen with your ears on, and then you can vent later. It'll be all right. Ask quick questions and opinions from a group of different people. So I have like a built-in feedback group that I kind of work with when I have a quick question that I want to run past a variety of vendors. And that's something that I've really been benefited from, is having that opinions. And then on anonymous surveying, every year we run a survey, both mid-season of the market and then at the end to do a recap. And then how can you interact with your physical environment? We're inside of a downtown, so we want to make sure that we're being conscientious of business owners and traffic in and out. So making sure that we're growing that community as well, that we take our team of vendors and we're working with a bigger, larger community downtown. And then running through pros and cons of your decisions for all vendors. If I am making a kind of hard decision, I always want to make sure that I am looking at it from all different angles. So just make sure that you stay curious, have questions. Change is really scary, but it offers a great opportunity to grow your market into a place for everyone. So that's the big thing for me is it's a team sport. We're all going to row inside of the same direction, but sometimes we don't always be rowing. It is what it is. Any questions?
Any questions for Hannah?
Also, Monica, thank you. It's a team sport.
I would say I do a lot of the same things, Hannah, that like the pre-vendor meetings and,
Oh,
the
yeah.
weekly stuff. Like, yeah, I would say it's, it's a growing experience, but yeah.